and you're watching NDTV Profit.
Hello and welcome to our special coverage of the Indo-Japan Summit, coming to you straight from Tokyo at a time when the two nations face diametrically opposite scenarios, where on one hand India grows at a rapid pace of 8% while Japan crawls out of one crisis after another. Just how do the two nations find a common meeting ground? Well, it's apparently through summits like the one being held over here, which gives a platform to policymakers, businessmen, politicians and the connoisseurs of art and culture to come together and chart a common roadmap for the future. It was a summit that brought together the who's who of the business and political world, as well as large delegations of SMEs, entrepreneurs and NGOs, not just from India and Japan, but from across the world. Over 5,000 people gathered to discuss, debate and push forward Indo-Japanese bilateral ties for 3 days at Tokyo's Park Prince Hotel, and unearthed the potential of a stronger collaboration between two of Asia's largest economies, a cause that was endorsed not just by India's best-known industrialist Mukesh Ambani, but also the prime ministers of the two countries.
What we are witnessing today is historic in the sense that I have been involved with government-to-government dialogues, business-to-business dialogue, but now the India-Japan relationship is moving to a new level of people-to-people dialogue, and we've got really people from all walks of life in India and in Japan trying to build a relationship and think through a relationship between the two countries.
We are determined to see Japan and India, the two largest democracies in Asia, further deepen the cooperative relationship based on the strategic global partnership both countries had announced in 2006.
Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has sent a message to this conference. I am happy to learn that the India-Japan Global Partnership Summit is being held in Tokyo in the presence of very distinguished leaders of Japan. I hope that the summit will help to build even stronger bridges between India and Japan. Signed by the Prime Minister.
The massive conference was a grand culmination of 10 years of tireless effort by India Center.
At India Center, we saw this dream that India and Japan can work for a greater cause and for a platform which could be as big as world. Today I see it's the start.
Supported fully by the Ambassador's Office to push through the socio-economic synergies between India and Japan.
I am happy to say that the betterment of Japan-India ties enjoys wide political support from all parties in both Japan and India, and is warmly endorsed by the people of our two countries.
Headed by Vibhav Kant Upadhyay, the visionary behind this conference, India Center calls it the IPO for the Indo-Japan relationship, marking a change in the world order and a role model for other countries to follow.
I would like to make a special mention of the commitment of India Center led by Vibhav in shaping this partnership, the partnership between India and Japan.
I am thankful to organizer of this summit, especially Mr. Vibhav, for organizing such a meaningful event.
And more than 2,000 people came together, shared ideas, there were various sort of seminars and exchange of thoughts. What's the vision from here, the next 10 years?
I see India-Japan relationship will create a model for the world. this socio-economic framework is already been liked by a lot of people. As you can see, Nepal, which sent an official delegation to attend this summit, has already subscribed to the vision of India-Japan working together, and they can see that they can also be the part of this. I believe many Asian countries, African countries, European countries, why not America, why not Southern America, anyone who feels this model can work for their country. This is an open source.
You know, at a time when India is growing at an 8% GDP rate, while Japan is seeing deflation, it's seeing a downgrade by one of the ratings agencies. Essentially, how can this become a reciprocal relationship rather than it just being, you know, India wooing Japanese companies into investing in India, offering, you know, its manpower in lieu of technology? How can it go beyond all of that in these challenging circumstances?
Japan has become a thinner elephant than what it was. So we have to recognize this. You know, their national savings are 14 times of our yearly GDP. They will come out of it because they know what they have created, and they are already in a transition period of creating something which is a different model of economy.
This perhaps is just the beginning of what could usher in a new era for the Indo-Japan relationship. Clearly, the foundations of a promising future have been laid, but where does the Indo-Japan relationship stand at this juncture, and what are the initiatives taken by the two governments already? Well, take a look. It's a relationship that dates back to the 6th century when Buddhism was introduced to Japan from India. And ever since, political and economic relations between the two nations have remained strong and friendly, with India being the largest recipient of Japanese ODA or official development assistance. India in return has reciprocated the friendship by sending help in Japan's hour of crisis in March this year. On the economic front, Indo-Japan cooperation has gone from strength to strength, especially in the last 10 years, with Japan ranking 5th in terms of cumulative FDI equity flow into India and several Japanese auto majors strengthening their presence in the country. The Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, first of its kind mega infrastructure project, is aided by Japanese financial and technical assistance, with further help likely to come in. Bilateral trade between the two countries stands at $12.5 billion, with a target of doubling it to $25 billion by 2014.
Nobody imagined that one day the trade between Japan and China will overpass the trade volume between Japan and the United States. But that's the reality now. In 20-year time, I really believe that the trade volume between Japan and India would go beyond the trade volume between Japan and China. I firmly believe that.
And the introduction of the CEPA, or Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, in August this year, whereby 85 to 90% of tariffs between the two nations would be eliminated in a span of 10 years, will only push trade further.
But I think it will be very important to see from a very important state such as the Delhi state how the perspectives opened by the CEPA are looked at and what kind of potential can be unleashed, what kind of steps could be taken to take full advantage of the CEPA. So, Minister Goswami.
Japan foreign direct investment in India during the year 2008 was 800 billion yen. However, trade with India accounts for less than 1% of the Japanese total trade. I am confident that the implementation of the CEPA will lead to the significant increase in trade and investment.
In fact, the Haryana government, which has closely partnered with Japan in the past and is a state that has the largest number of Japanese companies based there, feels the CEPA will be a game changer.
Indo-Japanese Comprehensive Economic Partnership Treaty should not remain purely an economic treaty, but it should rise to become a accumulation together of two countries, one which has demographic dividend, another that has technological dividends. One that has a young, buoyant workforce waiting to unleash its energy. Another that has the relevant experience and expertise. And ladies and gentlemen, you can well imagine, coming together of two such countries, it can do wonders not only for the economy and the political social milieu of these two countries.
I have come to you to express my gratitude for reposing your faith in us and investing in Haryana. I assure you all support from my government. With these words, I invite you to visit Haryana to catch a glimpse of its development and experience its dynamism. I also welcome you. I also welcome you to become our partner in growth model, which is robust, sustainable, and inclusive. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Well, that was a broad framework, but what are the specific areas in which the two nations can collaborate? Well, that's after a short break. Welcome back. You're watching our special coverage of the Indo-Japan Summit. I'm here at this beautiful garden in Tokyo. But just going back to the relationship between Japan and India, well, they've collaborated on how on the Delhi-Mumbai corridor. Just what are the other areas on which they can collaborate? Let's find out. The Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, a $90 billion industrial passage connecting India's political and financial capitals, covering 6 states, 1,500 kilometers, and perhaps representative of what Indo-Japanese cooperation can accomplish.
The real big thing that can transform the partnership is the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, because as I see it, it's got a 2, 3, 4, 5 benefit. And what I mean by that is if it comes through in the way it is envisaged, it will double employment, it will triple industrial output, it will quadruple exports from that region, and this is supposed to be all happening in 5 years.
The opportunities are big. The Japanese have already committed large investments, and more assistance is expected in the form of a revolving fund.
The Japanese initially gave a $75 million fund, and they are looking seriously at creating another 4.5 billion long-term fund, as which should be merged with the Indian revolving fund. So that is what we are discussing on the sidelines of this India-Japan Global Partnership Summit.
The next big area of cooperation between the two nations is going to be the Agri-Corridor, where Japan and India plan to work together using the PPP model, optimizing resources so that Japan can join in.
Our Prime Minister few weeks back said that India needs a second green revolution, and I can with very confidence can say the agriculture corridor which we are proposing will bring the second green revolution. So if we can bring processing, if we can bring preservation, packaging, policy and power at one platform and create agro-economic nodes.
Renewables and energy is an area of focus where the two countries can collaborate, Japan being the leader in sustainable energy efficient technologies.
We would like to study the energy conservation law of March 2009 introduced in Japan. I know that Japan has done a good work in energy conservation. Apart from geothermal power and solar power, in my view, India and Japan can work together in this direction and also work together for R&D to reduce the cost of solar power generation. India has done a good work in tapping wind energy. This program can further be advanced with joint efforts, as wind energy has tremendous scope.
Nepal, India and Japan have also planned a three-way approach to tap Nepal's hydropower resources, wherein Japan will invest in the technology, Nepal will produce the power and India will buy it. Another untapped market experts believe is healthcare, and the newly signed CEPA will give Indian pharma companies a chance to make inroads into the Japanese healthcare market.
The new CEPA agreement has been signed, which really gives a special dispensation to Indian companies on the generic space. So I do believe that the Indian pharmaceutical industry has a great opportunity to really come and show their capability in Japan by supplying products or even raw materials, because the healthcare cost in Japan needs to be reduced.
Also, the Indian telecom story, which has been largely a missed opportunity for Japanese companies, could throw up new prospects. One of the panel sessions over here is called telecom, and is that a missed opportunity? If it is a missed opportunity, what can really Japan now do in this next wave of telecom revolution, where you have 3G and 4Gs coming into India?
I think next revolution is not necessarily going to come from 3G and 4G. It is going to come from broadband applications. First phase of the telecom revolution is about to end. Next phase of telecom revolution is about to begin, which is connecting with optical fiber. Japan can come in with hardware, software, content, applications, jointly develop things together with India and Indian software talent. It's huge. That revolution is about to begin.
Insurance, banking, agriculture and food security are some of the areas where Japanese technology and innovation can meet India's cheap and abundant human resource capability. Yet, the two countries have been moving slow in tapping the full potential of this partnership.
Japan-India has great potential, but we have begun very slowly. Today, about 350 Japanese companies operate in India, but this is 1/50th of the Japanese companies that do business in China. Japan also lags behind countries in capitalizing on India's fast expanding domestic market. The lack of market for Japan and India's need for investment for infrastructure and its domestic market can easily become the triggers for strengthening our bond.
And if a new vigor has to be brought in, then attitudes will have to change, say experts.
We want to increase trade to 25 billion by 2014. But we need to rethink through new business models and innovate. Whenever I get a chance to meet my friends from Japanese companies, especially CEOs, I tell them that you need to change. You need to learn few lessons to create new business models from companies like GE.
In fact, beyond the core areas of cooperation, there's great scope for Japan and India to unearth the tourism potential and also tap opportunities in the education space. Over 7 lakh Indian tourists visited the tiny city-state of Singapore last year. Compare that to Japan, and barely 67,000 of the 11 million Indians who go abroad every year made a trip to the land of the rising sun. No wonder then that tourism and unleashing its great potential was a major point of discussion at the Indo-Japan Summit, with a key area of cooperation being the joint development of the Buddhist circuit in collaboration with Nepal.
We can all join hands to develop Lumbini, the sacred birthplace of Lord Gautam Buddha, as a global pilgrimage site for the world's Buddhists.
There is very little knowledge of the Japanese market, especially its vibrancy of Japan as a country in India. Very few Indians know that Japan has the highest number of Michelin star restaurants across, and that it's one of the greatest lively destinations as far as cuisine is concerned. The Indians have failed to attract the single Japanese girls who are amongst the biggest spenders in the world. And this is simply a lack of awareness, a lack of knowledge of the segmentation of the market. The markets must be analyzed, the outbound markets must be analyzed, they must be examined, and then you need to attack those segments of the market which are going to give you results, and then work in partnership with high-value tour operators, work in partnership with airlines to bring these destinations.
Another area where Japan and India plan to strengthen cooperation is education and skills development, with the Nalanda University, where Japan has provided significant financial aid, being the template for academic excellence.
There is a commitment that Nalanda would become an icon of, if you want to say, Asian Renaissance.
We have to provide emphasis for Nalanda University, which is a symbol of collaboration in this region. this is a repetition of what I said. Christianity and Latin were the basis for the European universities, and which resulted in the formation of EU. Now we are having a major growth in the Eastern Asian countries. So we have to have a core on that. So Sanskrit and the Han and also Buddhism, these are the core of the East Asian community in the past. So we are now coming up with a new way of East Asian community.
Clearly, the synergies existing and potential are many, and there are a range of different areas where Japan and India can engage and develop dynamic industry and business collaborations. The summit was a critical enabler for people-to-people participation, and both sides will now present a paper to their respective governments charting the outcomes. The stage is now set for an even bigger and ambitious Part 2 to be held in New Delhi next year.
अगली कॉन्फ्रेंस दिल्ली में होगी. वी आर वेटिंग फॉर यू, और आपको अश्योर करते हैं कि हम जैसी ये सफलतापूर्वक कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई है, ऐसी ही सफलतापूर्वक कॉन्फ्रेंस दिल्ली में भी होगी.
Well, that's all we have time for, but as the session comes to an end, the general sense is that there's a great potential for both the powerhouses to come together and convert all the challenges into opportunities that will be a win-win for both the nations in the long term.